Absolutely.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor.
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in on the Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. We've got a great lineup for you. Of course, Charlie Miller will be along. Where Charlie's already with us. Don Fischer's with us already as well. So what better way to start the Monday off than with these two great cats? Don, how are you, sir? You had a kind of a week off, I guess, last week.
I did have a week off. I enjoyed my week off. I went and played a lot of golf on my week off. That's what I always do when I have a week off. You kidding me?
Got basketball coming up, of course. Got another football game this week as the Hoosiers get back underway. Charlie's with us today as well. Charlie, how you doing, sir?
How you guys doing?
Doing
tired,
fine.
to be honest with you, man. I got home at 3 o'clock yesterday, tomorrow, I guess, 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't even get my words out. Flight, weather, and all things, but all good. We're all good.
Trooper, man. What a trooper. Don, I know you were out of basketball practice some last week. You got to see some of that before things get started?
Yeah, I did. I went down to Thursday's practice. It was a MASH unit that I was watching. They had a bunch of guys around the sidelines, a couple of ankle twists and things that they were dealing with. But you know, what interests me most about Mike Woodson at this point is the teaching that he's doing. He's a really good teacher of the game of basketball, and he's getting out of his kids, I think, everything you would want to see at this point. Obviously, and he's kind of an interesting guy. He's not necessarily he doesn't have the same style as Bob Knight. I mean, he gets after it, but it's in a different way. He does a little bit of it with humor and that kind of thing. I mean, he's just an interesting dude. And honestly, I think these kids are learning. I think they're enjoying practicing, which, you know, a lot of times I'm not sure that that's always the case with basketball players or football players or anybody. Practice is a lot of the journeyman type stuff that you have to do to get ready. But I think these kids are enjoying themselves. That struck me. How hard they practice strikes me. And the fact that they played so well in the Bahamas defensively, and Mike decided to make sure that was the first thing that he installed, I think was critical. And now, of course, they're getting a chance to work on offense and how he wants to play offensive basketball and what he brings to the table in that vein. And, you know, when we start having talk shows with him and those kinds of things, we'll get maybe a better insight into what he feels is the style that he wants to play. But I think it's going to be more of a professional look, you know, an NBA look to this, the way they play basketball, rather than what we've seen perhaps in the past.
And by that, I think you mean like more positionless basketball.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't think it's going to be necessarily set plays. There'll be set plays like there is in with every basketball team, and every coach has set plays, things that you want to do out of timeouts and those kinds of things. But and if you think about it, I mean, Bob Knight was a motion offense guy. It was positionless basketball in some respects. I mean, Charlie can talk better to that than I can, but when you watched Indiana play back in the day, when Coach Knight was teaching the motion offense to his players, it was basically positionless basketball. Guys had to do a lot of different things, and I think that's the way the game has transitioned.
Charlie, you know about the not having set plays, just having to make the right decisions.
Yeah. I mean, it was all positionless before even it was a name, right? Because it was rules based, right? It's rules based. It's position based where you are on the court. So I definitely see that happening with more actions, right? You know, not necessarily sets. It's just
right
situation set up. Coach Knight was the same way. You know, there's your court. You're set the court up a certain way. Players got certain actions they're going to set, and that was just spark the play. And that's also hard to watch film on, right? I mean, because it's not predictable. I mean, to the players it is because of the way we play, and you kind of understand. Like if I know Brian Evans is below me, there's a screen coming and a rescreen for a flare. It is what it is. That's happening. That's Brian Evans, right? I got Todd Linden under me. I know I'm getting a back cut. It's just, I mean, this is the nature of the game, right? So,
Right.
But yeah, I'm more than certain those players are probably enjoying Coach Woodson, not only for the teaching aspect, but the way they also are able to maximize on their potential.
And Don, I would think that these individual players getting to play like that, it does exactly what Charlie just said, maximize their potential because their potentials are different and they can find different ways to get to that point.
Right. Yeah, there's no question. And it takes time. I mean, to play basketball that way, it requires you to think. But then after a while, you can't be thinking because that slows you down. So you've got to get used to this whole situation. You've got to understand what you're supposed to do. And then it's got to become second nature. And once that happens, then you see a functioning basketball team from an offensive standpoint. And then the other side of it is how hard you play at the defensive end. And that to me was getting these guys to buy into that initially, and then to show that in those games down in the Bahamas, because that team played really good defensive basketball in those two games down there against that Serbian team that was tall, long and tall, great. Supposedly their reputation was great outside shooters, and Indiana shut them down. And to do that the first time out against a team in 2 ball games, I thought that was very impressive.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to Coach Woodson at Big Ten Media Day Friday, and I think that's one of the things I mentioned to him was the most impressive thing to me was to take a team that has a bunch of new faces on it with a new coaching staff and to go play against a team that is not a bunch of kids, but some semi-pros that have been together for a long time, and to do what they did, I was very, very impressed.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And look, it's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect yet, certainly, and it's never going to be perfect, but it's nowhere ingrained like it's going to be at some point. Again, it's all about teaching at this juncture. It's all about getting guys to understand their roles and that type of thing. And that's the other thing about Mike, because he, in that press conference that you mentioned, he talked about the fact that when he got there, that there were people, coaches that told him this guy can't do this and this guy can't do that. And he said, wait a second, I don't want to hear that. He said, you tell me, these guys are all going to be coached by you guys. You can't tell me that they can't do this. Let's let them prove that they can't. And then we'll set it up so that there's great opportunities for them to do other things. But don't tell me that they can't do this. Don't tell me this guy can't shoot. It's your job to make sure he can shoot. And so I like that. I mean, that's a different approach.
Oh, it's tremendous. And you talk about someone who has confidence in his players and he has confidence in himself and what he can bring to the table. And I think that those are two great pieces because that's what you need for success. And I think that it's looking pretty good right now. And I do like what I've seen and what I've heard. It's like there's no BS. It's like, here's how it's going to be. And there's absolutely no BS with Mike Woodson. That's another great thing. He's very open and honest with everything, with the players, with the media, with the fans.
Right. No, there's no doubt. And it's all going to work out. And there's no question in my mind that this is going to be a really good basketball program at Indiana.
Absolutely, Charlie. You know about being in a good basketball program as well. But what are your thoughts from what you've seen so far from Coach Woodson?
Well, I mean, a couple of things stick out for me, according to the media day, something he talked about. But I want to go back to what Don, you talked about with Coach Woodson saying, hey, I don't want to hear about the biases of what somebody can't do. Because a new coach coming in, you don't want to have prejudgments on players because now we're limiting. I was going to say that word Jim just said, open. You have to be open at the NBA level. I mean, because you got players that are coming in, you know, first of all, these are professionals, so you have to be open to the way they train, the way they play, and kind of from their style of play, help them mold into what you're going to do in your system. So knowing Coach Woodson is a former player, that's what I just heard about Coach Woodson. he's taking his former player aside and say, hey, don't tell me what I can't do. Let me show you. Give me the opportunity to put back my resume out here for you. That's why I'm here. And that's what I was going to talk about. These players, to maximize on their potential, they now know why they're at Indiana, to do what they do best and delegate the rest. And then with that point from being on, the impressive part for me from Coach Woodson was the honesty, the really brutal honesty about when he first started coaching in the NBA, he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what he was doing. And to give a story about that shows his openness and vulnerability. And then he got the itch to coach and the itch to get better. And then I'm more than certain he tapped to his resources. And then you can look years later to the things he's done. So I look forward to really consistency. I don't know what it's going to be like every single game winning, but I just look forward to seeing a lot of consistency, a lot of continuity, and a lot of players really, again, looking to reach their potential and knowing their roles and knowing why they're at Indiana playing basketball.
And I think the other thing about that, Charlie, too, these kids, that's why I think the kids have bought in.
Yeah.
I think they've bought into the fact that this guy's really trying to help them become the best that they can be.
That's right.
That's number one. And then number two, they're having fun.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I mean, what are you playing basketball for if you're not going to have fun?
That's right. That's right.
You know, that's part of whatever sport you're playing, you better be having some fun doing it, or you shouldn't be doing it because it's not going to pay off for you.
Yeah, it's gotten too serious. I mean, I think overall, I missed another story, but like it's gotten too serious. You gotta have fun at it. You gotta, because again, being with each other for almost 6 months, you're gonna have the ups and downs, but you gotta have that silver lining for me. And you just said it, man. Fun is in fundamentals, by the way. You gotta have fun.
That's right. Don, I know you had a little break from football, but it's back this week as the bye week was in place, and the Hoosiers are back taking on a tough opponent. Of course, they're all tough from here on out.
Well, think about it. Indiana's played Iowa, they're number 2. Cincinnati, they're number 3. Penn State, they're number 7. And now Michigan State's number 10. And that's the next opponent. This team is facing a juggernaut of great football teams, and it's not going to end with this Michigan State game because they got Ohio State the next week, a Maryland team that's improved, Michigan right down the line. It's going to be a brutal rest of the season from just a competition perspective. And for this football team to turn things around, it has to start this week because Michigan State, I don't care if they're number 10 or not, and they're playing their best football in several years, you've got to be able to knock somebody off if you're as good as you're expected to be. This team hasn't proven that yet. They have defensively, in my mind, but the offense has not done its job, and that's got to change. Hopefully Jack Tuttle coming in this week as the quarterback, getting most reps in practices. Now you've got Donovan McCulley, a freshman, that is going to be the backup. Hopefully nothing happens to Jack to put him in that role, at least at this point. But at the same time, you're getting him ready. You've got a transfer portal guy in Tim Baldwin who has left. And you've got to now have a situation where you've got to bring in another guy. True freshman David Holloman might be one of those people that gets an opportunity to play here as a running back at this point because Stephen Carr can't do it all by himself. Irvin Poindexter is another guy that saw some playing time at the running back position. The Childers kid has played some this year. We're going to see whether this football team can do something offensively to turn things around. And to have that happen, this offensive line has got to play better. In my opinion, that's where this Achilles heel for this football team is right now. It's the offensive line, protecting the quarterback, giving him time to do his job out there, and opening holes for the running game. That's where this team has got to improve the most. If they don't, it's going to be a rest of a long season.
And they're going to have to do it without a very deep running backs room done.
Yeah, well, just like I said, this freshman David Holloman's probably going to get an opportunity here to come in and play. And what I've seen from that kid, I like, but he's a freshman. Is he Anthony Thompson as a freshman? No, that's not going to happen. But maybe he can show himself a little bit. We'll just have to wait and see. But in my mind, it's all about this offensive line. And if that doesn't improve, it's going to be, like I said, a long season. The good news from the bye week, in my opinion, is to getting all these other guys, the defensive guys that were hurt last week in the Penn State game, back again, because that's what a bye week helps you do. You can rest those guys that are hurt. The Mike McFadden's, Reese Taylor, Raheem Lane, Tywan Mullen, all those guys were dinged up in that ball game against Penn State. Hopefully they're all back and healthy again, ready to go. And then, you've got to get your confidence back. You got to start believing again in yourself. And hopefully this bye week helped that along as well.
Absolutely, Don. Thank you so much. We appreciate you as always. Make sure you're back at Southern Stone this Wednesday, right?
Wednesday night, Inside IU Football with Coach Tom Allen. We'll see what the coach has to say about how things went this past week. I know the coaches were all out evaluating talent over the weekend. They only practiced Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, and they got all their lifts in this past week, but Tuesday and Wednesday were the only days they practiced. The rest of the week was devoted to healing up and getting better in those regards. I'm sure they had film sessions and those kinds of things, and as long as their weight training that they did not skip on, but nevertheless, this team needed a break, and hopefully they got it, and it rejuvenates them.
Absolutely. Don Fischer, the great voice of the Hoosiers. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Don.
Hey, guys.
You got plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they'll be back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration or
I didn't mean to do that. Good morning, Charlie.
Hey, John, how you doing, man?
Man, y'all can see them boxes in there, can't you?
Say it again.
We've been reorganizing some stuff in our house. So
your boxes? Oh, I don't.
Those boxes were in the camera shop.
No. Man, I didn't realize IU's schedule, the football team was like loaded, dude. Like, I wondered the strength of schedule because, I mean, to play now, Barn, you probably agreed to play Cincinnati, beforehand, but like that strength of schedule, I think it has to be one of the top schedules in the country.
Trying to see an updated one. This one, and it's not really from a normal site. It's showing Indiana as the sixth best, is Wisconsin as the toughest.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of thought Indiana, at least for the here. Hold on, Jim's calling me. Hey, Jim.
Hey.
Yes.
I might be able to do it from bed, just without a camera.
Like through your phone?
Yeah.
If you want to, don't feel like you have to.
Well, I kind of do have to. I mean, it's so. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Are you going to come on?
Yeah, I'm coming on with Charlie. It's not just going to be Charlie.
Oh, okay. All right. Then if you're going to come on, then I'm fine.
Okay. Well, go rest up.
Did you see me sweating?
I could see you were uncomfortable.
Very.
Yeah, you just go rest, and we'll take care of this. Don't worry about it, man. Well, you get to wherever you got to go, man. All right, see you.
Some of the substitutes will take over. He's going to get the report he's going to get. I'm hoping he's okay. Yeah, he looked uncomfortable. He looked alive.
Let me go ahead and remove him from
We'll
here.
figure it out.
I don't know if I can fully remove him, but I can have him. If he wants to hop back in for whatever reason, obviously, he can keep his thing there. All right, what we got time-wise? And if you want, Charlie, I don't know when you want to talk about your stuff. I know you've been wanting to talk about.
You can cue me in and we can talk.
We'll just go whatever. We'll try to talk a little football here at the beginning, and then we'll go from there. And go and bring us back in.
Home. And I know you'll continue to be there for whatever my future holds. Because you're my BFF. Banking friends forever.
Right now, get free checking with online banking. And all the products of big city banks with hometown service.
With First Federal, you can do that.
This segment is brought to you by AAA Insurance. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle heading out for a little bit, so we'll see from him. We'll hear from him later on. Maybe not today, but we'll see him tomorrow. Charlie Miller, obviously here with me. John Alden, John the producer, filling in right now from the This Week in Indiana Football podcast. Going to be here with former Indiana basketball star Charlie the rest of the way. And then we'll have some guests. We have them lined up. We haven't quite confirmed everything, so I'm not going to sit here and say when so-and-so is coming on because I don't have anything confirmed, but we'll see what we can get taken care of the rest of the show for you. But Charlie, we were just talking a little bit about football at the end there with Don Fischer, and the bye week couldn't have come at a better time for what is a struggling Indiana offense that needed that extra week to get ready for Michigan State.
Yeah, I think it came at a great time, and at the same time, you're hoping they got a chance to regroup, heal, recover, get rest, and then get ready for Michigan State. And I was talking about, kind of during the break, I didn't realize the strength of schedule. I mean, it was loaded. You think about the games they played. You hope that the experience from those games, even though they were lopsided, you hope that the experience now will give these players an embodiment to now be ready to play against Michigan State. I know that there's a tangible, right? That what's called the Brazen. That's a tangible at hand. That that award that goes back and forth between Indiana and Michigan State. You hope that tangible is something that can incite them to get them ready to keep, right? You hope that, despite Michigan State being number 10, and you hope that can be the fire they catch to then move on and continue to play against Ohio State the following week. So, it's a TBD, man, to be determined thing. But I'm excited to see what they're going to do this week, after having some rest and being off. I'm hoping they got their fire back.
Yeah, so that strength of schedule you're talking about, if you look at the current rankings of where the teams that they've already played and the teams that are going to play, if you look just at the top 10, they've already played at number 2, Iowa, number 3, Cincinnati. They're about to play number 10, Michigan State. They already lost to number 7, Penn State. And you still have number 6, Ohio State, and number 8, Michigan. That's like 60% of the top 10 right there.
Right, but and you had Cincinnati on the ropes. You came out and played. So it's in you, right? You spot it, you got it, is what I say. And we've seen sparks. We were dominant, couldn't sustain it, right? I think it was a penalty in that game that kind of spiraled some things.
The targeting.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's in you. And you just hope that it's not lost, because this was pre all, these losses that we've had that have been lopsided, pre Michael Penix being hurt. So I know he's been consistent, but now he's hurt. So now you just hope that they can really get their juices back and be ready to play the way they're capable of playing the remainder of the season.
And you got this whole mentality of a restart. Not only the fact that you have a bye week, but you're going to have not a brand new quarterback in Jack Tuttle, but a new start to the season with someone who hasn't started yet this year with Jack Tuttle. And so I know all the talk has been, is the offensive line really the problem? Is Michael Penix really the problem? Is it Nick Sheridan, the offensive coordinator? Is he the main problem? Well, you're going to have one of those answers this week when you have a brand new quarterback coming in to see what he does under this current system. And if he'll be able to thrive, I mean, maybe all that was missing was the fact that Michael Penix wasn't himself. Maybe with the fact that he hasn't been at 100% since last season, and we haven't been able to really see what he's capable of. And so if Jack Tuttle's able to come in and fill that void, maybe a lot of those issues dissipate. I don't know if that's going to be entirely the case, but I mean, we'll just have to wait and see on Saturday, obviously.
Yeah, I feel you gotta just move the sticks, man. We gotta move the sticks. It is, I mean, at the end of the day, defense I think is doing the best they can do, but you have to move the sticks, and we gotta score points. You know, I mean, so if you look at the last 2 or 3 games, I don't think how many points have they scored, John? I mean, it hadn't been many.
Well, you got 0 against Penn State the first time they were shut out since the year 2000.
Right. So, I mean, you got to score. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you got to move the sticks, got to get first downs, got to, I think, have a strong hand on offensive possessions, and then you got to score the football.
And you got this Michigan State team who's got a really crazy rush offense right now with transfer Kenneth Walker III. He broke a record last week for the longest, I think his longest rushing touchdown in Michigan State football history. It was, I don't know the exact yards, but I know it was in the upwards of 90 yards when they played Rutgers. Wow. And this guy's put up almost 1,000 yards through half the season. So he's on his way to having a 2,000-yard season as a transfer. I don't remember where he's from, but that's crazy. When you can bring in a guy who's not – been in with this transfer portal thing, these coaches know when they're going out and searching through the transfer portal, who can I find that's perfect for this system? And this guy, Kenneth Walker III, seems to have been one of the first examples of finding the guy for somebody that fits into your program.
Well, and you just said it. You found a guy that he can fit your scheme. And think about now time of possession, eating up clock. It almost sounds like an Emmitt Smith to me. Because if you for the Cowboys, it was like back when I was like, you know, I mean, even though I live in Dallas, it's like they would throw the ball the first half, and then the second half they would just dominate the run game, and that's what Emmitt Smith would just run crazy because now you're scheming for passes, and you're not really eight in a box, and Emmitt Smith is running wild. So it almost seems like they figured out a formula, and it just happened to work out through the stress report.
Let's go to a couple of comments here. I see Pete Clausen from, he says, I think he's from Minnesota. I think he's Jim's Minnesota guy. He says, no moral victories for IU this week. A definition of a must win just for confidence and surviving the balance of the season. And see, that's the tough thing. Obviously, Indiana had all these expectations coming into the season. Yeah. And you don't want to lose all of these big games. But when you're struggling, it's hard to say that a team against a top 10 opponent is a must win. Obviously, when you're trying to consider who you are as a team, Indiana, and you want to get back on track to where your expectations were at the beginning of the season, yeah, I can see where you would think that this would be a must-win game. But I think even bigger than that, and it's not a moral victory, Pete, that I'm trying to say here, but as long as you look good and competitive against this Michigan State team, and you know that you had a chance to win, I think that should be the bare minimum. Like I said, I don't want to consider that as a moral victory. But Indiana should definitely play well enough to put themselves in a position to win this game.
Yeah, I guess my dog has something to say.
He must disagree with something I'm talking about.
My dog has something to say because my other dog's now at the vet and she's upset about that. But anyway, I think this is a must-win, John. I don't disagree with you, but I really do think because I don't know if we have an identity offensively. I don't know if we have an identity. I think the defense, again, they've done well to me, but I don't know if we have an identity offensively. And I believe it's been really the inconsistent play at quarterback. You know, and there's no jab at Michael Penix at all, but it's just inconsistent. If you can't throw, I keep saying for basketball, I'll get better. If you can't throw the football, and then again, you can't run it. And then now you talk about the transfer portal, it's kind of hurt us a little bit, right? You get 2 of your top running backs that decide to leave. So now you're going to have to rely on, you know, possibly a freshman and other players get reps in that regard. So you hope that this week watching film, less contact, they've got a lot of mental reps. They're ready to play, and you're showing a new look, right? Because you can't now prep. Michigan State really can't prep for IU and what their players at the running back level are going to do because they haven't seen them play. So you may have a little bit of newness in that regard.
Yeah, and it's tough when you have to deal with so much newness at the halfway point of the season. But when things aren't going the way that you plan, that's what you end up doing sometimes, it seems like.
Well, and that's the thing about it. That's why I said it, it's like that. When you're so hyped up, when you're so, 17th preseason, all, good looking team, all these things, all of a sudden you come out and you're flat. You're beating the teams you that we paid a lot of money to, right?
Now back in your
you go beat those teams. No, you're good. But we have to now beat the teams that we compete against in our own league. We have to show we belong.
Charlie, back when you were playing basketball, did you find it difficult, no matter what the expectations were set at for your teams at Indiana, did you find it difficult to not get overhyped for yourself instead of focusing on just preparing for the season? Did you find you or some of your teammates maybe basking in that preseason glory ever, or no?
I think it was my sophomore year. We were kind of ranked high in regard to top 25. But I don't think it was something that we thought about. I don't think it was.
Plus, that was prior to the days of social media and all that stuff, so it wasn't as easy to access.
Right. But but that really wasn't the environment that I think Coach Knight kept. It was always, gas, your foot on the gas. Who cares what people say? You just focus on what you got in front of you. And I think that's more of a Coach Knight thing in the coaching staff in a bubble, because you really are in a bubble in a sense. Even I guarantee you with Coach Tom Allen, those players are really in a bubble. What we're talking about, they're probably oblivious to, and rightfully so. Because if you're listening to all the naysay, it can really, really impact you. So you have
Ross chimes in and says, if the offensive line can't step up this week, then personnel changes need to be made for the balance of the season. See what we got there. Now, I think what he's referring to is these mid-season firings, which is, I would say, worst case scenario coming into the season. You don't want to ever have to think about getting rid of anyone on the coaching staff in the middle of the season. Right. Charlie, is that something you're in favor of? Because I always wrestle with stuff like that. It doesn't matter if it's the head coach or someone somewhere in the middle, because I feel like from a student athlete perspective, which I don't have, you were a former student athlete. I feel like if I was one, no matter how bad the season was going, I don't know that I would want to go through a coaching change mid-season unless I just had a personal issue with whoever my coach was. But you could probably give me a better answer than I would be able to on something like that.
Well, John, they've introduced the NIL, man. This isn't college football anymore. It's not college football. It's not.
Okay, Ross says he's referring to player changes. I misunderstood. Well, we can still keep going with what you were saying.
Yes, but it's not collegiate anymore. Players had the opportunity to get paid. So after a while, it's going to become, to me, like a professional opportunity. If you consider, in a proverbial way, NIL athlete can be considered like a campus employee, right? So and I understand, but I also understand the young minds that from 17 to 2021, that kind of change can really be an adverse effect. Also on the school too, because you got to think about this. There's a domino effect, John. So you let somebody go, and I don't want to put a position out there because like I know or whatever. Yeah. You let a personnel go. You let a coaching higher coaching person go. You got to think about the person coming in. That's going to be one of the first questions they're going to be asking. Are you going to do something like that to me? You also got to think about this financially too. What's the honor to the contract, right? What's the you break that. What is there incentives in that contract? Is there a you can't do that until the end of the season. So you got to think about the monetary value here, the face value to the players, the overall scheme. Somebody coming in, it's too difficult to really do that. But because of the NIL, I think all bets are off. Relatively soon over the years, you might see something like that.
And plus, if you're somebody who feels attached to whoever your position coach is or whoever recruited you, if they're gone midseason, the player can just as easily hop in the transfer portal and go somewhere else. And that creates another transfer portal issue that is probably going to be more prevalent as well going into the rest of college football from here on out.
Yeah, but that's why I'm talking if that was the case. So two, that's why it probably won't happen. Because of what you mentioned.
I see.
You will have probably 2 or 3 players that you can't afford.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to think about the trickle down to your recruits, because it might have been that position coach recruiting in that regard.
Yeah.
Now they're gone. That relationship's gone, because this is all relationship based.
Yeah.
Some kids are going to Indiana, prospectively any school. You're going to play for a certain coach. That coach leaves, you can see that player leaving, especially how easy it is now with the transfer portal. So that's why I think you won't see it, but I can see it in the future happen with no problem.
Yeah, there's too much to sort out between this transfer portal thing and NIL on top of that. There's so many new things, a part of not just college football. We haven't even gotten to see the repercussions of it on the basketball side of things yet, which we'll get to see firsthand next month when the season gets going. And I think NIL for Indiana basketball will be much more of a prominent thing than Indiana football.
Right. Understood. Yeah, and you hope that we don't get hit with this, right? We hope.
Yeah. I'm not saying this turmoil.
I'm just saying we hope. Yeah, we hope that
more factors of NIL.
Yes. Yeah. We hope that what we're hearing from a commitment level of players on the basketball side is solid, and we go from there. But again, that's a yet to be seen too.
Tim says, "Hey, sometimes I wish my boss was fired and get a new boss." Well, hey, I guess a lot of people probably feel that way, but hey, we're gonna go ahead and take our next break here.
Awesome.
Before we come back, and then we'll either talk more football, basketball. We'll figure something out. This is the John and Charlie show today. We hope Jim's doing all right, and then we'll hear from him later on. So we'll be right back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants. Whether you're looking for a relaxing...
All right, normally during the segments, I already have music pulled up, so I need to look for that while we're in break instead.
I see.
What do you want to talk about next before we come back from break, Charlie?
John, I'm open, man.
Well, what is it? The Jim's. I think we briefly talked about it one day. Your new app that you're creating. Do you want to do a little bit of that right now?
It's published. I can.
Oh, perfect. Then we can definitely talk about that.
How about I'll send you a link, and you can look at it. If you go here, John, I'm gonna send you a link real quick.
All right, that's fine. Let's try to find this music. Oh yeah, I forgot Alabama lost this past week.
Yeah, I saw that.
Comments. All right, you say you send me a link?
Yeah, I'm sending you a link right
now. Excuse me.
You go to that courses.attackbball.com. You see it?
My email is loading.
Okay.
I don't know why it's going slow. Usually I can get right to it. Come on, man. All right, here we go. course, is attackbball.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's the second.
So when did you? Well, we'll talk about this. I don't want to.
Yeah, it's the
say
second course. It's the 8-week shot fix course.
That's yours. Okay.
Yeah, they both are.
Who does the vertical jump training?
I did that too. I made that.
Oh, you did that too. But you want to talk about the 8-week shot fix?
We talk about it all. We talk about player development. Talk about player development. Yeah, and why? And again, that's kind of that area I'm really looking to really build. Just now, I have a philosophy, a way to see basketball I want to share.
So, sweet.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and bring us in from commercial.
Or 2022 Honda Pilot, all the trims for 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Or how about a brand new 2021 Honda Passport, also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with John and Charlie this morning, brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant and Andy Moore Honda. We're about to talk with Charlie Miller some more about his player development app that he's created. And I know he also is do you run or own the Attack Basketball Academy? What is it that you do on a regular basis?
Yeah, I own it. My wife and I own it. I've been doing it for 11 years, John.
Wow.
Yeah, 11 years, man. And here in Dallas, Texas, and that's where I started it. Started just in somebody's garage, just rebounding for a player, teaching them how to shooting baskets, and all of a sudden it's blossomed and grown organically over 11 years. And it's also allowed me to, like last night, over the weekend, I was in Spokane, Washington, doing a basketball camp, teaching kids as far as from Oregon to British Columbia, Idaho, Montana. They come all over, and I'm spending 3 days, 18 hours teaching basketball the way I knew, love, and respect it now.
So it looks like you've started a brand new course. It's called 8-Week Shot Fix, part of your Attack Basketball. It said this app just launched on here. What is it that this 8-Week Shot Fix is exactly?
Yeah, so the whole key here to me in shooting jump shots, I think, talking about IU basketball, to me, one of the things that we have to get better at is making outside shots. Because when you make outside shots, the great thing about it is defensive players are going to play you closer, tighter. Closer they play you, the more the lanes open. Especially when you got a player like Trace Jackson Davis. That gives him more room to maneuver. Now you can play inside out versus outside in, right? When being able to shoot the basketball. And what you're after also to the player that I'm speaking to is you want to learn how to shoot, an accurate shot, right? It's not about making a shot. You want to be accurate. You want to miss short or long. And I have tons of information on how to do that, tons of drills. I have mentality drills as well. Just over the 8-week course, and I feel what I've done in my lifetime, John, as far as the habits I've built to become a coach that I am today, to be able to travel, to do the thing I'm doing, go to different markets. I have no idea who I'm going to see as assistant coaches and be able to kind of spearhead them and the players, sometimes with the 40, 50 players. It takes about 8+ weeks to really build strong habits, not 30 days. Nowhere near. Right. And there's the psychology behind that is, we can do things that are proven, but you got to find the worst day of your week to get things done. And that's what I really have. I think the calendar to me is what makes this 8-week shot fix course go, because I actually have, and I'll pull up probably the next segment, the calendar, because the calendar is what makes it go. And this comes from Coach Knight. This is straight like out of his playbook. Everyone wants to win. Very few people prepare to win. And if there's one thing I've learned from Coach Knight out of 4 years, from 94, 98, I learned how to prepare for life. Yeah, I don't just wake up. I prepare to wake up. Before I go to sleep, I prepare to go to bed. There's an agenda. It may not always get done, but I always have a plan of action. And that's literally the name of my company, PONA. The legal name of my company is PONA. It's Plan, Organize, and Attack. And that's what this Shot Fix course is all about. Learn how to become a permanent shooter for life, to give you opportunity to play at every level you want to play at.
Now, is this something they don't do this in person, right? This is like a program of. Let me click on. If I click on view course, will it show me specifically what?
Yeah, no, it's something that it's an evergreen product, man. I actually have it for as far as beginners all the way to advanced elite players, John.
Okay, so it's got 80 videos on here.
Yeah, man, it'll grow with you, detailed out. And John, I did it in a month.
So you mentioned a second ago you were talking about being able to do it on your worst day. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah. Yeah,
and I agree. There are certain days during the you may have a fantastic week, and this is not necessarily basketball related, but this is more so general mental health related.
Yes,
there's something about maybe one day in particular that can totally throw off your entire schedule, and then suddenly it's ruined the rest of your week. So what is it that you're trying to fix with that specifically? I guess.
No, so this is the thing. And if I had something I can draw on, I think this would be really cool to show. Because just imagine a quadrant, right, John? Imagine a quadrant, okay? And to get right to it, the top right quadrant is what we want. Because at the top vertical axis is effective behaviors, effective drills, effective proven results, right? At the bottom, the opposite, not proven. The horizontal axis is what it's about. Because to the left is, I can't see myself doing it on the worst day. I can see myself doing it on my worst day. The top right quadrant, that's a tip for life. I don't care what you're doing. You got to figure out your worst day of the week. And if you can get one or two things done, then more than likely, scientifically speaking, over time, 8 weeks, it's going to become a habit. The problem with stuff is we are so overzealous sometimes at doing things that we don't pinpoint the worst day of the week. I can give you an exact same story. My son, he's 5. When he was 4, Wednesdays were tough because he was loaded doing all kind of activities. We had to literally hire a counselor. Like, why is he acting out? And for weeks, we couldn't figure it out until she said, he has a lot going on Wednesdays. You all need to figure out something to kind of lighten the load. And then Thursday be a little lighter day. That just clicked in my head. It's not about the stuff that's proven. I mean, hell, that's what social media is all about. Or, motivation is all about. It's proven results for years. But I got to figure out my worst day to get that done. Almost said something. I got to figure out the worst day. I got to figure out what's my worst day to get that done. And it's called habit stacking, not multitasking, right? You're taking strong habits that you currently have today that can help you anchor ones that you need to grow. Sound like a tag along. And that's what I put. The essence of this program is simply that. So this is like studied research stuff that, not just because I play basketball and I can shoot. No, it's like studied research. And this is, again, the way I see the game now. If players want permanent skills that can grow with them, this is how you want to get it done.
But one thing I noticed I struggle with, especially like whenever I first started doing this show with Jim, and I know this almost seems like behind the scenes stuff, but like learning to adjust to doing something new. We had just moved into this house. Whenever I started doing this show, I was living in an apartment with my wife. We were in the process of buying this home. And so when we came here, and I'm still struggling with this.
Right.
I've been trying to get myself in a weekly rhythm, and it seems like every week the rhythm looks something totally different because I look at what happened the previous week and I try to figure out what went wrong. And sometimes I find things that I noticed that did work and incorporate them in the next week, but then something else arises the following week and I'm like, okay, that's still not working.
That's right.
I don't know what it is about me, and I'm sure there's several other people out there who try to get themselves in routines that can't. What is it about what you have that helps people get out of the habit of maybe trying something and then not being able to stick with it?
Well, it's a begin again process, right? Not necessarily a do.
Okay.
And at the same time, too, if we take your situation and just listening to it, you have a lot of newness. You moving. So think about the stress of, stress is stressful. Moving from one place to another. You're looking also buy the place. That's stress in itself as well. Not just necessarily, you're just renting. You're looking to buy the place, right? You're looking to organize. If you have pets, you have all kind of things. And nothing against it. If you don't ink it, you can't think it, brother. You got to put it on paper.
Okay.
And that's the key. The key to this stuff is not just keep the stuff in your mind. You got to put it on paper. And for me, what's the strength of your calendar tells me a lot about the person or player that I'm dealing with.
So you're talking about this calendar. I know you're wanting to.
Right. No.
This for the next segment.
In general, in life, the strength of your calendar. You have to have a calendar that's kind of guiding you, because what is a calendar? The purpose of a calendar helps you prepare. And in preparation, you're productive. The key to productivity is routines, because routines are designed to create predictable results. In the beginning, they're going to be unpredictable. That's why you want to have something you can see on paper that can give you reminders, right? Then at the same time, too, you create boundaries. You have to learn one of the most important things in life is to say no, not yes. You got to block that time out. And this play on words, double entendre, is like work works, man. It simply works. So like I've literally, with this program, if I think about you and what you're talking about, John, in your life, it's if you can think it, ink it, put it on paper, block out times to get things done so you could just be present. Any roadblocks come, keep your 3x5s with you. That's a Coach Knight thing too.
Okay.
Write it down, get back to it. Right? Recap at the end of the day. What went right? What went wrong? I got to get back to that. All of a sudden now, look at what you're doing. You're habit stacking. Now you got a cycle. Now the cycle is kind of running on its own merit, and that's what you call lifestyle. And that's what we're after, right? But you got to learn to be uncomfortable. Because tension is what we grow from. Life is layers, and you have to learn that you're going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, it's true. So one thing though, maybe you mentioned Coach Knight used that stack of index cards. Do you think Mike Woodson uses a variation of something like that with his players now?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be surprised if he doesn't. But I keep my index cards with me, because I might see a commercial. I might see something. I'm like, man, stop. Let me write that down, because that thought's going to go away, because I got so much stuff in my mind. And then think about this as a coach too. You have so many people that are looking for support from you, right? Directly, indirectly. So you're zapped from energy. You don't really have a lot of energy to give. Sometimes I come home, I don't talk at all, because I've been on the court, just giving my all to players, whether it's a third grader who may be a year or two from really should be considered not playing basketball, to a high schooler, right? Which you got to, continue to show humility to, because they think they're better than what they are. So, I mean, it's just the reality of it. So I have to show up at practices with an agenda, practice plan. I can always go off script, right? But I got an agenda that get me back on script, right?
Is it difficult? Because I know you work with different sets of kids probably every single time. How difficult is it going from somebody with one personality to someone with something totally different?
In the beginning, when I first started years ago, it was because for me, it was like I had this belief that everyone can play and shoot, and you got that potential. So I'm an active coach, and what that means, John, is I'm on the court with them. I'm sweating with them. I'm demonstrating with them, because I'm not at that coach level where I can just sit back and just tell somebody to go do something. I'm on the court with you. So that's what makes it not difficult, because you can show them, and you can now with variation. It's only so many ways we can do fundamentals, right? But just over the years, I've created, creative ways to keep players engaged. So that's really the saving grace for me. I like to have a lot of fun. I like to have music going. I like to get to know the person, their parents, what their, their siblings. So it's always a reminder of them, right? It's a reminder of why you're doing things. So you're doing it for yourself, but think about people you want to make proud of you, right? So it's kind of a reminder of your why, your cause and effect.
So you put a point of emphasis, and I think you mentioned this at the beginning, of building a relationship with those you're working with instead of just being their coach.
Yeah, you got to. And the relationship go, because again, a lot of times if you think about it, especially when I'm coaching, players are around you longer than they're around their parents, right? They'll feel more comfortable telling you things, as I know I did, before I would go tell my parents or family members. So there's a responsibility that you have. And we talked about that buy-in, nothing against that word. I think it's nothing against it, but for me, it's a commitment, because I want you to be 100% in. There's no 50-50 like a marriage, right? It's you bring 100% commitment. I bring 100% commitment. I do what I do best. You do what you do best. Player play, coach coach. Coach corrects, coach puts you in a situation, coach identifies, coach tells you what to do, go get it done, trust it. Player, go play, go make mistakes. I'm going to encourage you, next play, best play mentality, and we go from there. But we're bringing 100% of ourselves, right? So that's sometimes a reminder a lot of times for my players, especially the ones that don't have confidence. Because a lot of times, let's face it, you're coaching players who won't make it. They're not going Division 1, 2, 3. They're not playing NAIA. They're not. And it's okay. It really is. But what you're doing for them for life, you're forging and you're helping them build character. You're helping them build resiliency. And to me, that's what this thing's about more than anything.
Yes, if you want to check out what Charlie's doing right now, all you got to do is go to courses.attackbball.com. Right, Charlie?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and also I got a vertical jump program I created several years ago to help players learn how to increase their vertical, how to learn how to jump. Literally, it was like I learned how to jump slightly before college, like literally how to jump. It's a non-weight based 12-week course I created, and that's where I'm at, John. Like, if you were to ask me, and I see Forrest ask the question about, hey, Charlie, if you were asked to join IU's coaching staff, would you do it? One, I appreciate you for thinking about me that way, because they don't know if I can coach or not. Keep it real, right? I may just be talking a great game here, but at the same time, this is a testament of 11 years of allowing people to pour into me, coaches across the country, across the world, who's been really good top coaches. They give me their secrets. They give me the ways to plan, how to practice plan, how to watch film, how to teach players how to watch film. The camps I'm able to do, again, coming back from Spokane, Washington, having a rock star type camp, going over some high level stuff with players. Players allow me to come in and teach them. And so, this is now Charlie's lane. Charlie's lane is more development from philosophy, mentality of what I've learned in these individual categories, how to shoot the basketball, right? How to jump. Then I have some other things coming out like ball handling, finishing, defense, all these little individual pieces that makes up the whole, right, of the actual team concept.
So be sure to check that out, guys, at courses.attackbball.com. He just launched it recently, and it sounds like a really good thing if you're somebody who's looking to not only fix your shot, but be able to put yourself and get yourself into a routine, which is something that in this day and age is really difficult to do. So thank you, Charlie, for explaining all that to us. We're going to go ahead and take another break here before we bring on Bob Garner. So we'll be right back here after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
If you're in the market.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, how you doing?
So just to give you a little update, I don't know if Jim has gotten a hold of you, but he he had something come up at the beginning of the show, and me and Charlie are doing it right now. I don't know if we could do the interview with you, but I don't know if Jim had anything specific for you of being on.
Okay. All I know is he asked me to be here at 10 o'clock. So however you want to do it, I can come back some other time.
Okay. I'll reach out to him because, like I said, I really don't know what he had planned to talk with you about, and I don't want to waste your time either. Charlie, what is your role, Bob?
Well, I'm the events coordinator, but we were supposed to talk about all the special events coming up in November, and he was going to talk to Angelo next week is the message I got. So,
okay. Charlie, do you think we should – what do you think we should do?
Do not let me interrupt the great Charlie Miller. Come on.
No. Bob, first of all, I think we should because I think that'd be great.
Okay.
2, I like what he has off his left shoulder. I wanna get into. So I think that might carry the
Hey, that's fine. We'll have him on then. Let's do it.
So I like that 11 life lessons. I might learn something today. So I think we go at it, man.
Let's do it then.
Charlie, how you doing? It's been
well, sir. Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great for an old man.
I hear that, man. I'm getting up there too. Bob.
I tell you what, not any place close to where I am, bud.
I mean, see, Bob's now a topper. I don't know, John. I think we might need to cancel this call.
Hey,
John,
I was a topper as well, though.
Oh yeah,
that's the problem. We're on the wrong show right now.
I hear that, man. That's good stuff.
So before we come back, Bob, I don't want to butcher. You're the events coordinator for Indiana?
I'm events coordinator for the Hoosier Gym in Knightstown, Indiana.
Events coordinator for the Hoosier Gym in Knightstown, Indiana. Okay.
Where's Knightstown? Where's that?
30 miles east of Indianapolis. It's where the movie Hoosiers was filmed. And we got a museum here that's unbelievably good.
Great. Love it. Knightstown. Man, I've never heard of that.
Well, you got to make a visit.
Oh, man. Come on. For real. You know what? And you know what? That may be the case because my son plays at a Division III school called Midway University, and we're planning on making a little kind of trip to go watch him play over the holiday break. And we're talking about.
Hey, Charlie, I don't mean to interrupt. We're coming back to break.
Sam's Clubhouse, Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with John and Charlie this morning. Now we're joined by Bob Garner, the events coordinator from the Hoosier Gym in Knightstown, Indiana. He's got some things to talk to us about in regards to some special events going on. Bob, how are you doing?
I'm doing great this morning. How are you guys?
Awesome. Thank you, Bob.
Charlie, I know you seem like you wanted to get off to something. I didn't know where to steer this at the beginning.
No. I know when in Jim's absence, I think the guests that we have on, I think I want to have them on because one is practice, man. I need to practice. And I love to be on the spot too, man. I mean, I love to have fun with this, right? We talked about fun. I think we deserve some fun after what we've been witnessing on the IU football field.
That's true.
So I think we need to have a little fun and not poking fun at them, right? Play on words, but I mean, keep it, right? And we just figure it out as we go. But I want Bob to talk about, again, he's in Knightstown, Indiana, and the significance of the gym you have, and then the events you have coming up in November. If you could share about that, Bob.
Well, obviously 35 years after the release of the movie Hoosiers, our museum is one of the few places you can go and visit a site that was in the movie. It became home of the Hickory Huskers. And now 35 years later, we have a dual celebration here in November. Number one, the gym is 100 years old, was built in 1921. The movie was filmed here in 85, released in 86. So this is the 35th anniversary of that. And in November, we've got 3 really important events coming up. On November 13th, we will be showing the movie Hoosiers here in the gym. We have a screen that covers the stage. And I will tell you that for the first time, and I'm not going to give away too much, but the first time people will have the opportunity to see the movie the way it was supposed to be seen. As you know, 46 minutes got cut out of the movie. One of the first questions we get when people enter the gym is, well, how did Buddy get back on the team? He quits and then suddenly he's playing. So how did that happen? And that's one of the many questions that will get answered in the proper showing in the movie on the 13th. Then on November 20th, we will be having a celebration for the 100th anniversary of the gym, the 35th of the movie. But more importantly, that day, we will be retiring the jerseys of all the Hickory Husker players. And the 7 who are still living will all be here that day. We'll be having a lot of fun. There'll be an autograph session, but it is going to be a great day. And then probably my favorite, being a great fan of high school basketball as I am, on the 24th of November, the 100th anniversary of the first game played in this gym, we will have a doubleheader that night. And what's interesting about that, if you think about it, 100 years ago, there was not girls basketball. Now there's girls basketball. And that night we'll be having a varsity girls and a varsity boys doubleheader. Nice. And it will be an opportunity for, I think, people who have never seen the girls basketball to see the skill level of these girls that they have today. And it's amazing. I joke that some of these girls today could have played on the Hickory Husker team in 1952. That's the skill level they have. So it's going to be a great November. We have a couple websites that'll keep people up to date. TheHoosierGym.com. We have Twitter, Instagram, on all the social media, and all of that information will be going out, and we hope we have great attendance.
So it sounds like you have tons and tons of anniversaries kind of that you just mentioned. And the first one you talked about with the movie Hoosiers, and you're going to be having a showing in the gym. This is some sort of unseen director's cut, right? From what you were saying?
To call it a director's cut might get me in trouble, but okay. Yeah, it's an unseen director's cut.
Charlie?
No, yeah, and I'll tell you what, over the pandemic, I had the opportunity to sit on a Zoom call with the director of the movie Hoosiers. And what was fascinating, I found out of how the idea started when he was in the dorms at IU.
And I think people don't realize that Angelo had actually written the script back in the 70s.
Exactly.
And it didn't get released and didn't even get filmed till 85.
Exactly.
And the thing that we find fascinating is, and I find very fascinating, is that so many people come here that know all the lines in the movie. Where I'm not talking about people from Oklahoma and California and we had a guy from Spain in here about a month ago. He knew about as much about the movie as I did. But I think that I tell people that 35 years later, it was a great movie, great acting, great directing. But the key to that movie was the script.
Right.
And the reason we're talking about Hoosiers 35 years later is the brilliance of Angelo Pizzo's script.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And again, and how hard it was to be picked up too, because it wasn't picked up. It wasn't picked up because people didn't understand the concept. So he really.
The great thing is that Hackman said no one outside of Indiana will want to watch the movie.
Correct.
I got news for you. He's probably done better off the movie Hoosiers than anything else he ever did.
Exactly. Think about what parlayed for him after that movie in opportunities. So that was interesting when I found out about that. and how, you know, he went out to California and was shopping it, and just no one wanted to pick it up until finally someone gave it a shot. And yeah, so that was pretty cool. That was really cool to understand and see, and you know, just to think about, you know, just right there as a student at IU, you had this idea, you know, to think about, you know, that team back in the day. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a wonderful movie. I've watched it more times than I can count. And but the funny thing is, I'll be flipping channels, and if it comes on, I still it to the end, and it's playing here all the time.
That's right. That's awesome.
Bob, tell us more about some of the other anniversaries that you had coming up again. I know you gave us a bunch.
Well, the 20th, I think, will be exciting for fans of the movie who are interested in seeing, meeting the players on the Hickory players, having a chance to get autographs. That's the day. And we are going to retire those jerseys. And I think it's important that we have made a decision here to not interfere. When you walk into the gym today, the only changes you see are heating and air conditioning, obviously the three-point line, and we have big, ugly scoreboards because you have to have tenths of a second on the clock to make the games legal. And we're still doing right at 80 high school games a year here. In the last 3 years, we've had teams from Mississippi, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Missouri, Illinois, Michigan, Tennessee, Kentucky, of course, Indiana. And this year we're adding Alabama and Georgia for the first time. And those are real, actual, on their schedule high school games.
Wow. That's impressive, to say the least. That's good. Now is it boys coming from out? Oh, well, it's men's, right? The men's Georgia, Alabama.
It's in most cases, the schools are bringing their boys and girls varsity teams for a doubleheader. Gotcha. And that's the preference here in the gym. Our board of directors made the decision that we would give preference in scheduling to teams who brought both.
Okay.
And
what do you typically? Oh, go ahead, Bob.
What I didn't finish there was the idea of keeping the gym exactly like it was in the movie. When we retire those jerseys, they will become a permanent here in our lobby, which is our museum portion, where I'm sitting.
You're good. Whenever teams come to do these games in this gym, what is the reaction typically? Do you feel like there's? Go ahead, Bob.
It's funny that when you watch the movie and you remember the old cheer, "We got spirit." Yes, we do. We got spirit. How about you? That will drive you crazy here because people come here in the movie, and invariably that gets started back and forth across the floor. But the idea of a court that's 12 feet short, that you got the double line, you cross the second line in 10 seconds, and then you play back to the first one. All of those unique things about this gym make the game exciting. We've had some unbelievable games here. And when you think about the culmination each year is our reunion classic, where we take the best senior girls in the state, divide them into two teams, do the same with the boys. In the 15 years, think about this. 6 of the girls who played here have gone on to the WNBA. 2 are still active. And those 2 that are still active, Skylar Diggins and Jackie Young, gosh, they just came back from Tokyo with gold medals.
That's right.
And I'm still trying to arrange a celebration to bring them in this year. And on the guys' side, 24 have played in the NBA. And we're talking about Mike Conley, Eric Gordon Hayden.
Yeah, so you got some homegrown
who have played here. And that does not count the 50 who have gone worldwide to play. We've had girls, for example, can go to Europe and make more money there than they can play in the WNBA.
Right. Yeah, and you got Jackie Young out of Evansville area, right?
Pardon?
Jackie Young's out of Evansville area,
down
right?
in Princeton, down across
Princeton, exactly. Princeton, and then Skylar Diggins played at Notre Dame. So you got some homegrown. You know, I see what you're doing, Bob. You got a lot of Indiana ties going with these players. That's pretty impressive. And that's a good. It's just a good overall feeling.
Well, the thing about it, you have to be an Indiana high school senior to play in our game.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that even with the COVID, when we send out the invitations, we had almost a full roster. And this next year, I started sending out notices to what I thought were the top 30 on each side. No final decisions yet. But guess what? We haven't had one kid say they would not want to come play in the game.
Oh man, that's tough to turn down. I mean, because of the mystique behind it, the tradition behind it, and to say you had that opportunity, that's tough to turn down.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, Bob, a couple more things. What are some of the other things going on? I know you said there was the 100th anniversary of the women's.
We have the game on the 24th.
Okay.
And that's a boy-girl doubleheader, and that's the 100th anniversary of the game.
Okay.
And the last thing that what Charlie mentioned when he came on was the 11 life lessons. And Charlie, we're getting ready to come out with the second edition. And it started a few years ago. I'd have youth groups in, and I would tell them, if you learn the 11 life lessons in the movie Hoosiers, all going back to Pizzo's brilliant script, you'll have the foundation for a great life.
Nice.
If you make them part of your core values, then you'll achieve it. And that's led to doing the book. And it's done better than the editor and I even dreamed of. But if anyone's interested, there's a 11 for Life website, and we'll be happy to sell them a book. And Charlie, get a hold of me. I'd like to have you have one on me.
Oh no! I want to support you, man. I want to buy. Hey, look.
Do you realize the support I've got? I've been on air with Charlie Miller. Come on.
Hey, well, I tell you,
what a treat.
It's worth it. I appreciate the offer, but because see, John, I got something in mind. I want to buy them because I want to figure out how I can do a basketball camp on that court. I got to figure out, because Bob, that's what I do. Over the last 11 years, I'm a player development coach, and I travel the country from about spring to the fall doing basketball camps. And I live here in Dallas, Texas now, but I want to figure out if there's a way, and I'm serious about this, I can actually organize a camp on that court. I want to talk.
I'm the man to call, and we just had our 5th annual coaches clinic here, and it was a great success. We do that every year. Love to have you in for camp.
Oh, come on. So yes. So now see, that's why I knew there was a reason, John, I wanted to keep Bob on. I just felt it was something. That life lesson behind him. See, this might be the 12th life lesson. I don't know.
Hey, I'll send you over Bob's info, and we'll see if y'all can get that taken care of.
Yeah. I definitely want to support your book, Bob. I mean, look, I wrote a book before. I mean, I know what it's like, and I got a book, got programs out. So, support, man. Small business. I want to support it. I appreciate it.
Well, the thing about my book is I did it to support the Hoosier Gym during a really bad pandemic time. And fortunately, we've been able to do that.
That's great. That's great to hear, man.
Well, Bob, we appreciate you taking the time to come on with us. I know we're not Jim Coyle, but we're glad we were able to make this worth your time regardless.
You tell Jim I said you're better looking, so it didn't matter.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, man. Well, we appreciate you. I really will. I'm going to hand Charlie your information here after the show, and maybe y'all can get in contact and figure something out. But we're going to go ahead and take our next break. Thanks again, Bob, for joining us, and we'll be back right after this.
Thanks a lot, guys. Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Whether it's a celebration.
All right. Thanks, Bob. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on. Charlie, here's my phone number if you want to call me.
Oh, yeah, don't say it over there. I've got his. Yeah, we're technically on YouTube Live still, so people can hear people.
So John will give it to me.
Okay. You guys,
We made this
I'll
mistake
talk to you
before.
later.
Bob is old school. Bob's ready to give it out. Now, Bob, you might get some calls you don't want, Bob. So,
I've had a few of those in my day.
there you go. So,
You
so
guys
I
be
know
good,
John. Yeah, John will give me your
coming in
information.
from all places, Wisconsin, on their way in. So
Yeah. So no, John will give me your information, and I'll definitely give you a shout. And
Okay.
I appreciate you. Thanks
thanks a lot, guys.
Bye, guys.
See you, Bob. All right, that was fun. We're gonna have I think Jim Reamer is going to join us here shortly, as usual.
Okay.
So we'll have that here coming up. Excuse me. Making sure I get all. See, doing this and producing is weird, man, because I can't focus on the things I'm normally focusing on.
I bet. How do you respond to somebody on the chat comment section?
So you can at the bottom. I don't know if this is on here, but do you have the option to post a comment at the very bottom right?
I don't.
Maybe you don't. If not, though, you can address. We can address it during the segment, though.
Well, yeah, I want to give a shout out to Five Let's Milton. He said, "Great interview. Thank you."
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
Five Let's appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
I couldn't have done that without Charlie. I promise you.
And Pete, I think the AIDS cut off Pete.
The Hoosiers Charlie Miller camp.
Yeah, but Pete, we may make an exception for you, man.
Yeah,
we may make an exception for you.
Maybe he can be.
You might
a coach.
give me an idea because most schools, like I know Coach K would have what they call a fantasy camp. Michael Jordan would do the same thing. They would bring in like older, people in their 40s and 50s, and go through a practice or two. You might give me an idea, Pete. That might be pretty cool, man. Do like a little fantasy camp, do like a little hell week or something.
All right, I'm gonna bring us back in.
It's an APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Or how about a brand new 2021 Honda Passport? Also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with John and Charlie this morning. We just finished up a good conversation with Bob Garner, writer of the book Hoosiers for Life. They sound like they had a lot of interesting stuff coming up with some anniversaries of the movie, and they're going to have a showing at the old field house with what he didn't want to call it a director's cut, Charlie, but he was alluding to the fact that there was going to be an extended version of the movie being shown.
Yeah, you don't want to give too much away, right? But that's pretty cool to know that segment of the movie, what happened, how they come back on the team, and to now but think about how long, and for whatever reason it was cut out, and it still carried the movie. To say you're going to bring that back in is pretty neat. And I'm more than certainly gives people an incentive to want to watch it.
And now we're bringing in our good friend Jim Reamer, who is I can't think. You do courtside, right? I can't think of what it is you do right now.
Yeah, I can't think of all the things I do either. So
I know you work with player development, similar to Charlie. So
yeah, more the coaching side. I mean, Charlie and I have talked about it a lot here. Just the new the differences, and he's definitely more the individual stuff. But a lot of our practices, we still value the teaching side of it a great deal.
Right.
And sometimes I like practice better than games. I mean, that's just I do. The kids don't. But I do. But but then it showed. We played two very good senior laden. My guys are juniors. We played two very good senior laden teams in the fall league. It's not nearly as formal as other competition, but the things that we do, we had enough of our guys together, 5 of them, and then 2 kids that were playing that also play in the league, and they did it. They did their own thing. I didn't have to tell them anything. So it's the one beautiful thing about motion. Charlie will tell you is that you could play it any 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5, open gym. You don't need sets. You don't need design. You don't need anything intricate. You just responsibility, roles, and
that's right.
And they were really good last night. So
your fall league you're talking about, it just got kicked off, or it's about ready to kick off?
Started yesterday. Yeah, started. It's a 4-week league. We typically get the best. We typically get the best players in the Indianapolis area. There are a couple coaches would rather their kids not play in anything outside of their program this time of year, but we typically get the best players. Now, unfortunately for Indiana fans, CJ Gunn is not participating this year, but he has in the past, but we've got a lot of really good young kids and still a lot of the D1 kids in the class of 2022. So.
Now, CJ Gunn, is he still rehabbing an injury, if I'm not mistaken? Is that why he's not participating?
He played a couple. Yeah, he played a couple weeks in an earlier league, in another league, in the Three Stripes League, which takes place pretty much in September. But I don't know that he was there each week. Mm-hmm. And then we showcase our better games in the evening. And we group them together so that way college coaches can come and not have to worry about being there all day. They can come and spend 4 or 5 hours and watch a lot of good players play. And when the evening games start, there's such a buzz because the people don't leave. They stay around and watch. Right. So they after their games are done, they stay because that's just how we've always done it. It's in the beginning when it was small, we just played at night. And then as the games grew, as the league grew, we realized two things. One, it was easier to get the better players there of an evening than messing around with morning or afternoon. And it also let them take visits and get back. Trace Jackson Davis played in the league for 4 years. And when he was taking visits and doing stuff like that, he never missed. I think he missed one time for fall break, but other than that, he was there because he could get back in time to play. And lucky that he was around. He lives in Indianapolis area, so it was lucky. But he's a kid that never missed his games, and I think obviously that's his willingness to commit to the guys he was playing with. But it was also, we made it easy to do. His games were at 6 and 8 every week, and getting home by 6 was pretty easy. So,
Charlie.
Yeah. So your league, I know you talked about that. It's Is it coaches or the players are just more so monitoring themselves?
No, we have coaches. There's not a lot of coaching going on. I mean, we do coach situations.
Right.
We do have a couple coaches that like to throw them in a zone, and I'm rolling my eyes as I say that.
Right.
And one coach, I heard him snipe at another coach last night. I've only got 5 guys here. He's trying to rest his kids.
Right.
So that I guess I kind of get that. Because we still have kids miss for fall break, but
that's right.
But they're coached. So we do have some team. In the beginning, it was just individual entries. It was invitation only for my purposes for the website.
Right.
As it grew, it got to the point where school coaches were trying to get guys in, and then as it continued to grow, it was just like, let's just open it up, and we started accepting freshmen. I mean, it was competitive at a time that when Yogi was a freshman. Of course, he played, he was going to be a varsity kid. Everybody knew how good he was going to be, but the older kids didn't care. They're just like, yeah, you're just some lowly freshman.
Right.
And they were real physical. I mean, it's a physical league in the evening. It's contact sport. And
that's right.
But we do have coaches. We do have more teams that enter as a team. So they come with coaches. Not all of them are AAU teams.
Right.
We've never intended on this to be an extension of AAU. I don't always coach my guys, but this group is fun and they like playing together. But it's as it's grown, we've taken more team entries. The more team entries we get, the less work I have to do, which is good. I could send things to somebody, the shorter number of coaches than I can 400 people. Even with mass mailers and things like that, it's still easy to coordinate 50 coaches than it is to coordinate 450 people, or 450 families. But But yeah, the coaching it varies from team to team. I did a lot of coaching last night because we were playing two really good teams and they wanted to win. So we tried to get them doing what we do defensively and what we do offensively. And the two guys we added to our roster for this league really picked it up and did a great job. So it was fun last night. We lost one, but it was still fun.
Now, is this something that bleeds straight into the high school season, or what is it? How long does this go up to?
It's 4 weeks. So we always backdate it.
Right. You said 4 weeks.
Yeah, but we always backdate. So the formula is simple. We always backdated the 2 Sundays before the start of school season. So like if like this year, our final day is the 31st of October, that means school season starts November 8th. That's when practices start. So we will always do that. We'll always backdate it. And then there's a league down in Evansville that does the exact same thing. And we conferred on that a lot. And D. Kendrick runs a really good league in Evansville. When he first started it, we talked a lot about how we do things. And I think he does a lot of the same things. He probably does a couple things more than what we do, but he's got a more captive audience down there than what we do up here too. As far as options. I think we've done a pretty good job of making this consistent every year of what to expect. And a lot of that is that it's meant to be somewhat of a preparation for school season. And it's,
right.
It's 3 steps above a good open gym, I guess, in terms of
no, it's organized.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would definitely, organized, structure. You're getting guys ready to play school ball, a little different from AAU ball.
It is freer. It is freer though.
Yeah.
I mean, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple guys on my team. I let them get away with a heck of a lot more.
Right.
These games than I would, than we do in the summer. But
Right.
for them, it's also exploration and expansion,
Right.
and no different. I mean, summer's the same way, but then obviously we start figuring out what translates to games, and then we start
Right.
kind of honing it in. This
Right.
stuff I don't care. I mean, we want good shots. We might loosen up a little bit what a good shot is, but I've got a kid, a power forward, who's really trying to expand his game, and I want him to use this time to do that. So these games, I'm not kind of sniping in his ear. The only thing I worry about with him are his feet, and is it a clean catch? And so those are the kind of, so we sort of narrow down what we complain about, or
and another thing too that I don't know, I don't know if we don't realize the value behind this, John. You're putting the player who wants to expand his game in game situation. So pickup, I mean, it's just. Everyone can shoot, but you're giving him referees, you're giving him competition, instructions. He's learning how to expand, like you said, exploitation. He's experiencing it, right? You kind of give him feedback on it. That's valuable, and it's a month worth of play. That's valuable going into your season.
Yeah, I mean,
so what do most, like, if players aren't participating in this, are they just taking this time to get off and be off and rejuvenate before high school season? Or is this really the only thing available to them right now?
Look, they've got their school team stuff. I mean, there's no point. We've got kids that don't play because they don't want to risk getting injured. We've got coaches who would rather their kids not play because they don't want to risk getting injured. But my comment on that would be anything that's incident related is unpredictable unless you plan on wrapping these guys up in bubble wrap between now and the start of basketball season. They're going to get hurt. They get hurt in open gym. It's the guys that have had nagging injuries or certainly coming off more serious injuries. Like, there's no way Pete Suter was going to play in the league this year. Kid from Carmel. There was no way he was going to play in it, even individually, because he had a really bad leg break. He broke his leg. Not nearly as bad. Not as bad as like some of Paul George and players like the Ware kid from Louisville. But it was still a bad break, and he's just now getting back from that, and he doesn't need to put a lot of extra stress on his body. Those types of injuries, I completely get those guys coming back from that. But when you worry about getting hurt, there's no way to do that if you're going to continue to play, you're just changing the setting of where you play. I'll give you a good example. Back in the mid 2000s when college coach, we had an open weekend in September, and we would go to Iowa every year to play in an event in the fall. And we were taking two mixed groups over to Iowa. And what I mean by that was I took my class of 2005 team, and we had a couple of guys that we were looking at for the spring. And then because we had a couple football players who weren't going to go. And then we had a 2006 team that was going to take a couple of the 2007s, and one of them was Eric Gordon. And at the last minute, Eric wasn't allowed to go. Coach Mitchell didn't want him to go. He was worried about him getting hurt, et cetera, so forth. And we don't even get to the state line before we get a phone call from Senior saying that that EJ had broken his wrist in North Central's open gym. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we don't know that EJ wouldn't have gotten hurt in Iowa, but I can tell you he wouldn't have gotten hurt in open gym that day if he was in a bus going with us to Iowa. So there's no real way to avoid that if you're still going to play. There's just no way to avoid it. Last year we did have some kids not play because of COVID. They didn't want to risk exposure, and that was 100% understandable. So this year, I don't think we've had anything brought up about that, but it's still good. We've got 52 teams, so that's 20 more than we had last year.
Wow.
And we sort of absorbed another league this year that really was hosted from out of town, just locally, and it sort of died down each year the last 3 or 4 years, and so we're playing at Grand Park this year, or Pacers Athletic Center at Grand Park, and that's a beautiful facility, Charlie. If you've not been in there yet, it's 8 courts. We're only using 4 of them right now because of volleyball, but it's an outstanding facility, and I love. It's easy to manage when you're in there because all 4 of your courts are kind of right there by each other. So
right. Well, Jim and Charlie, we're going to take our last break here before we wrap things up on the other side. Jim, you can stick around if you want. But we're going to go ahead and take our last break, and we'll be right back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Whether it's a celebration.
Excuse me. And just a little heads up, I feel like sometimes I forget to mention this when Jim's on, Jim Coyle. But on Mondays, since we start early, we'll end at 56 instead of right at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
So I'll keep us on track for that, obviously, but just a little heads up.
The one kid that I was hoping would be there this week wasn't. It was Jalen Harrelson from Fischer's. He's fantastic. He's a freshman. And he's one of the 3 or 4 freshmen that are just outstanding, and that I got a chance to see a couple of weeks ago at that Prep Hoops top freshman camp.
Right.
He's really good. He's the real deal, and he's supposed to be on a team out of Anderson, which is nearby Indiana, or which is nearby Indianapolis.
Right.
And he wasn't there yesterday. I don't know why. He was an entry with a team, so I don't really have a whole lot of control over that. So,
Jim, did you look at any Big Ten Media Day stuff?
No.
Okay.
Not.
See,
no,
I didn't want to bring it up unless you.
Yeah, I don't get into the preseason press conference stuff. Yeah. It's everybody's positive, everybody's happy to be back, and not that that's a bad thing. I just don't know how much anybody gets out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, even in a coaching change, like Woodson, for example, as it should be, he's like, look, things done in the past were done with great intention, and they just didn't work out.
Here we can talk about that briefly. Your perspective on having media days. Maybe we can come back and start with that. I guess Charlie's dealing with something real quick.
But then they just, people said, I'm an old crotchety old man now. I'm just becoming that guy again.
Really, you're not wrong because, a lot of that's what people want. People don't care about the talk anymore. They just want the results.
Well, and they want the headlines too.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we bash them for making headlines because they say something controversial. It's just, it's a cool way to kick off the season. And it definitely gets the kids, the players, the young men exposure to being in front of cameras and answering questions. And I think the function is more for the program and, sort of like public relations than it is to do for any type of news situation.
Oh man.
You check in on Jim, or you just?
I'll check in with him after the show and see if he's all right.
Was he missing or was
he? I don't want to necessarily say what happened, but he's just not here right now.
Okay.
But
as long as he's all right.
Yeah, he's okay. Yeah, he's fine.
He's having a rough morning.
He's having a rough morning. There we go.
There we go. That's cool.
Bring us back in.
Get free checking with online banking and all the products of big city banks with hometown service.
With First Federal, you can do that.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, John and Charlie, and now Jim Reamer once again with us this morning. We were talking a little high school hoops before the break, and now I want to ask Jim Reamer a little bit on his perspective of Big Ten Media Days. I brought it up to him briefly, and you mentioned that you're not really a fan of of what Big Ten Media Days or any sports media days does, because it doesn't really matter what state your program's in. Obviously, Indiana's got a new head coach in Mike Woodson, but you hear the same thing from all these different players and coaches. They're excited, they're ready to get going,
right?
And that's pretty much the gist of what you get from who you talk to at these things.
Right, absolutely. It's a good function for the programs, and I say when we talked off air, or maybe not off air, but off radio, it's from a fan standpoint. I don't get much out of it, because everything is upbeat and positive. Not that I don't like upbeat and positive things, but nothing's real. Nothing is. I mean, what would they say? And then we would probably crush them if they said something controversial, right, Charlie?
No question.
But it's a great public relations tool, and it definitely lets these young men get opportunities to speak in front of cameras, to speak in front of the media, and to be more professional. Because for a lot of them, it's an audition for something different.
That's right.
And in some ways, it's an audition for what they might be after they play.
That's right.
It's even if some of those guys go on to play, have a decently long professional basketball career, you could see these guys being groomed early on for TV, or being groomed early on for some sort of media endeavor. And it's completely about how they handle themselves. So from their perspective, from the conference's perspective and the team's perspective, Media Day is definitely a purposeful function. For a lot of fans, it's great because it means the season's starting. That doesn't change for me. But do I watch it? Do I pay attention? I don't hardly ever pay too much attention to press conferences that don't involve some sort of national tragedy,
scandal
that we're going through. Well, I mean, that we're going through as a country. Like, we had 9/11. I soaked all that stuff in because you just wanted to know. You wanted to hear what new information they had, and the housing crisis, the financial crisis, and I don't think I missed. It seemed like I didn't miss anything for 2 weeks during that financial crisis stuff. So
was that 2008?
2008, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just the feel-good press conferences, the preseason press conferences. Right. It's like John said coming into the segment, it's everybody's positive, upbeat.
Right.
There's no real substance there, and that's not the fault of anybody's. It's just because none of these guys want to give anything away.
That's right.
And no one's going to come in and go, yeah, we're really going to suck this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, imagine somebody, it don't matter who it is, come in and just say something that's going to – I mean, if you throw anybody off base just by saying we're not ready, I mean, clearly you're not going to be where you want to be in February or March. But you're not going to say that to anybody.
I'll say two things. The first year that Butler went to the championship game. So this was a preseason, like a preseason practice. This was like one of their early season practices before they played their game. It was 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning or a Friday morning. Not really sure why I was there, but I was there. I guess I was excited. And they walked out of that practice thinking, we're not sure we're even going to win the Horizon League this year. They felt really that bad about it. And obviously, they were never going to say that in public at the time.
Exactly.
And of course, 4 or 5 months later, they're playing for a national championship. So there's no real. It's why they play the games. The season is the season. It's a grind, and it's day to day. And some days you feel really good about it, and some days you don't. And then the second thing I would say is, do you guys watch HGTV at all? Or DIY?
A little bit, not
the home. Isn't that the home network? The home, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I've seen a few shows on there before.
So at the end of all these shows, where they redo something or they build something for someone else, they always have the big reveal, right? And everybody's so happy and ecstatic, and it's like a mild celebration. Just one time, I want somebody to get on there and be like, "No, what the heck were you thinking? Why would you make that choice?" I just think it would make it much more interesting.
I bet you something, Jim.
They probably edit it out. Or
I think that's edited, man. I think it's a lot of times. I think it's what you're saying. They just don't want to. They want to have that feel good story.
They throw that episode away.
They want to have that feel good story because you are not agreeing with all those decisions. You're just not.
No, you'd be like, "What the fuck were you thinking?"
Right. I'm with you.
Because here's what probably happens. These people on these shows, they have that big reveal, but I guarantee you they have some say before it's all a final finished product. Hey, do you want this here? Do you want this there? They're going to do a somewhat of a reveal to them of what they've been asking for prior to the taped one.
It's definitely staged, but it's just just one time. I just want somebody to walk in there and be like, "No, we're out. We're done."
It would be great TV. If you're wanting ratings, that's for
sure.
Hey,
you bring something up interesting, and I don't want to bring up the coach, but I remember going to a game and knowing the head coach, and after the game, the coach said, "We're just not good."
Yeah.
But I know he would not tell his players that. But there's a relationship that we have going back 20 plus years, and I'm looking to be upbeat about that, but just we're not good. We're not that good. I saw that, but that's the reality of the question mark that people really have. You say that internally, you're not going to put that out in front of.
We coached a team. I was a JV coach at I'm not going to say the name of the school. Anybody that knows me will know the school, but we coached a team. Our first year, we had 11 kids in the program. For 2 years, within the next year we had 12. For 2 years, I didn't get the sub in the middle of a JV quarter because of the Indiana's quarter rules, and I think that's just the National Federation high school rules too. But I couldn't sub in the middle of a quarter for 2 years, and I'm not going to go into the funny stories because there's I could tell a lot of stories about these 2 years. But the point making there is that the first year we were just terrible. I mean, we weren't even close. Our closest game was 24 points that year. At a time when that area of the state was producing decent small school talent, like Division I, we played Brody Boyd was on our schedule. The Staniford brothers, the one who went to Purdue as a wide receiver, was also an Indiana All-Star. I mean, we played really good players on that schedule for how small of a school and how small of a schools that we played were. We were on the bus sitting up front by ourselves, just like, oh, we're just going to get obliterated tonight. How is this going to be? And we were contriving our pregame speeches. Were we going to be mad? Were we going to be motivating this time?
Right.
One time we just tried not even talking to him.
Right.
We walked in at the last second and go, all right, let's go play. We were trying to figure out anything because we would have just such awful starts. And a lot of it was these freshmen were nervous. And one time we were getting beat so badly in the first half that by halftime, our head coach wasn't even mad anymore. We had just resigned. This is the beating we were going to take. We still we respected the other team. They weren't running the score up. We just were that bad. And he wasn't even mad anymore. We were walking back to the locker room, and he's like, we can't just go in there and pat him on the back. I'm like, I don't know, man. Why don't you just break a clipboard over your knee or something? He's like, all right. But he had my clipboard. I'm like, wait a minute. Let me go get the other clipboard. Don't break mine. But, I mean, you just – when you coach, you've always got to be – maybe not always, but you have to just always have a positive spin on what you're doing because otherwise you're not educating these guys. I mean, these guys took a beating, but we tried to find lessons in each beating. And the next year was worse because the next year we were close, still losing. So we were in 5-point game and 7-point games and still losing, and that made it tougher. Then the third year we were winning games, and in that fourth year, I think we went 13-7 the fourth year, and our best players. We knew when we took the job, our best players were at the time 7th grader and an 8th grader, so we knew we had some talent. But you just always had to be positive, and I love those guys. A couple of them are going to have their kids in my league this year, which is neat. So it's good to see them grow and have families and have kids of their own that play and are going to probably go through some of the same stuff they went through. But you've always got to have that positive spin when you're coaching because otherwise the game's supposed to be fun, right? Still at the middle of it.
Yeah, but it also sounds like you had something that was pretty neat over the 4-year journey you just spoke about was they stayed together. They came back.
Yeah.
Like you all grew together. And I think that's a big difference.
And the guy coaching, the head coach he had coaching aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
I was helping him. He needed a JV coach. I lived an hour away and made that trip every day for, during a season every day for 4 years. And he's now a college head coach. So, I mean, he put a lot of time and effort into that program and put a lot of time into helping build those kids. And he was very hard on them. There were times, Charlie, I'm sure you can relate to this. There were times when we planned on him yelling at me in front of the kids.
Right.
So there were no doubts that everybody could be taken.
Was accountable. Right.
Yeah, everybody was accountable. There would be times where we planned arguments between ourselves. So that way they know that I was supportive of them and we could fight back. They could speak their mind with their coach and not.
So that's what
crushed.
Dockage and Knight and Coach Fellon was. Oh, that's what you're telling me they were doing. Okay, I just thought.
I don't know.
I just thought Coach Knight was yelling at Coach Fellon because
there may have been times where Dockage and Fellon planned on it, not telling Coach Knight.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so that. Okay. So thank you for telling me 20-something years later because I just thought that was like, holy, you know what? That's crazy.
That was a point I was going to make a little bit sooner. I said there would never be a time where I didn't drive down to Bloomington to watch practice where I didn't think, you know what, he might kick him out 10 minutes in, and I just.
Hey, remember that curtain? Remember that little red curtain we used to have?
Oh yeah. Oh wait, the one in the hall or the one that coaches into the hall?
Coach's locker room.
Yeah.
Right, and now they removed. They put the 2 big black doors or whatever.
Well, for a while, both.
Huh?
For a while, there was both.
Both, yeah.
If the curtain was there, then you open the curtain and you run into the door.
So literally, it would sound like John and Jim. It would sound like a soap opera, man. Sometimes I'm sitting there like, is this real? You just hear them going back and forth. I'm like, is this real? Like, I'm not sure if this is breaking news or not, but like that would happen. What Jim talked about quite often, and that was funny to me. I'm like, wow, Coach Knight gets to everybody.
Yeah,
that is crazy to think about.
I think it helps the players to know that this is just how a guy is.
Yeah, it was.
And then now you're consoling the coaches, helping them out, but for all the stories that I've heard,
and feeling like the coach is just like you, same boat.
Yeah. For all the stories that I've heard and all the guys that I've been around, the IU stuff that I'm very fortunate to be around as at that point, certainly a fan and still am. The one thing that always seems to be taken back to is that the things you see in practice pale in comparison to what goes on, and even mostly in the film room, from what I understand.
These eyes have seen. But these eyes have seen Jim and John.
And they always laugh when they always smile and laugh when they tell the stories. Even when
that's why we love your unique perspective, Charlie, because you
and really all of my parables are I'm being honest with you. I'm gonna be transparent. A lot of my parables are around what I've seen and it's what not to do.
There's some of that. Absolutely.
And it's what not to do. Not saying it's right or wrong, but you can, winning does trump all, but there comes a cost.
Mm-hmm. But you go there, you went there either having to know that, or if you didn't already know that, then
you learn that.
If you didn't already know that, then someone didn't do a good enough job of.
Well, let's say
Charlie came all the way from Miami, Florida. It sounded like he was some homegrown guy.
Let's say the latter, Jim, and let's just keep it real. No idea. None.
No idea.
None. Yeah. Well, and I won't take it. And I'm gonna take it. And I'm gonna take it as is. You're just excited about going somewhere like that. That at the time, Coach Leonard Hamilton was in Miami, good program, solid, was on the upcoming, but a losing program. Florida State, Pat Kenny was at Florida State. Okay program. I wanted to get out of state. So that was more of an intrigue to me. And even the stories you would hear, you're like, whatever. He's not that crazy. Oh, whatever.
No, it's like, okay. Go ahead, Charlie, finish up.
He is who he is. And then so.
Yeah.
Well, it's about time to wrap things up. Thanks, Charlie, for riding this out with me this morning. I appreciate it.
We did it, man. We did it.
We did it again. Jim, thanks for joining us these last couple of segments. Obviously, thanks to Bob Garner and the 10 o'clock. Thanks to Don Fischer at the beginning, and thanks to Jim for getting this going. I'll be checking in with him after the show. Hopefully, everything's going good. But until then, we'll see you tomorrow. We'll have Kevin Brockway. We'll have Chronic Hoosier. We'll have Mike DeCourcy. And we'll see what else we got going on for you guys. But until then, we will see you on the radio.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Thanks, John. Appreciate you guys, man.
Yep. Charlie.